Hello and welcome to Four Wheels Good. This week, Richard Warren meets the XR Owners Club at Tapton Park. Will Hoy comes up with the goods in the form of two of the all-time great Ferraris. And we'll be catching up with John Wright again in Inside Motors. But first, join me as we cruise the highways in a car whose looks have been compared to the Ferrari 550, the Hyundai Coupe. It's definitely Oriental, but is it a Toyota? No. Mazda? No. This is the Hyundai Coupe SE. If you like to work out or go for the burn, this could be the car to perk you up. The Koreans want to make a significant impact on the British market, and the trick Hyundai are using is the style statement. Hyundai talk about muscular wheel arches, a narrow midsection and distinctive creases along the waistline. Still, it's got a lovely backside. First thoughts? Well, 2 litres out there and lots of toys in here. Some leather, electric everything, air conditioning, and it's quiet enough to hear the CD. This car's got more basic gear than many of its competitors like the Probe, the Celica or the BMW Coupe. And at 16,500, it's almost 3.5 grand cheaper than the Beamer. We all know the upwardly mobile are addicted to motoring icons that offer instant prestige, and that's where Hyundai may fail. This is their first venture into the sports coupe market. Will its looks and its price be enough to encourage defectors from the big boys? I've covered up the badges just to see if people really do know what they're looking at.
I'd say it's a Toyota.
Mazda. Daewoo.
Mazda.
Nope.
Looks like an MR2.
Mitsubishi.
Nope.
Is it a Renault?
Suzuki.
No. How much do you think it costs?
In the region of about 20k.
I would expect to pay nearly 20,000.
25.
18,000 to 20.
Under 16.
Really?
I'd buy it if I had the money.
Interesting. I wonder with this Korean heritage, it suffers from too many Japanese curves and not enough Italian designer house. Still, don't forget, 20 years ago we were laughing at the Japanese efforts to entice our purchasing power. We should keep our eyes on this one. Value for money? Well, it comes with a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, which is the best you'll get in this class at any price. And you can save yourself another £1,500 by opting for the base model, and all you lose is the leather and the aircon. Will they get as common as muck? Well, I don't think so, because Hyundai only intend to sell 350 of these in the first year. This one is an original press car. You don't want this one. The brakes are a bit light and there's not really much feeling there, but the clutch and the gearbox are okay. And I think you'd be glad of some firm buttocks to cushion the ride when the road surface gets a bit lumpy. Yes, I think this is a ride for the enthusiast. Still, you can carry 3 others around with you in reasonable comfort if they're long in the leg and don't mind being bent double. It's a good job the sunroof opens outwards, but it's not a great idea on a day like today. And the boot, well, there's generous space in the boot, plenty of room for lots of leggings and leotards. The dashboard is bold, but the instruments do look a little cheap at a second glance. Back to reality. Okay, it's not perfect, but nor is the opposition, and it is cheap. Hyundai want to be taken seriously, and I think they've got this debut just about right. For most people, it's the look, the price, the warranty, and the high equipment level. They're far more important than race-bred suspension and super-powered engines. It'll be interesting to see if this has the Body Beautiful Brigade queuing up for a waistline crease. Hyundai's Coupe there. Now, have you ever thought of joining a car owners club and displaying your pride and joy on the concourse? Richard Warren met up with the XR Owners Club at Satton Park recently and talked to some of those that have done just that.
Well, it's definitely raining again. Here we are at Satton Park in Cheshire at the Classic Car Show. We're actually looking at Ford XR3s and XR4s later on, and we'll also be looking at classic car clubs in general and how easy it is to join them. Well, here we are on the Ford XR Owners Club stand with Alistair Warwick Nelson, who's got a Fiesta XR2, which is his pride and joy. Spent many thousands of pounds on it. Well, obviously, Alistair, it's a nice car, but how much money have you actually spent on it so far?
To date, I think we're in about excess of £3,000, and it's still a standard car. It's not a modified one.
Well, obviously, the engine bay looks as if you clean it every morning and every night by the look of it. So, what about you haven't done anything at all with the engine? It's just a standard engine.
It's a standard engine. Basically, all I've done is I've gone round a lot of parts that were like normal metal or dull painted, and basically just polished them up. Like I said, it's all just polished. It's not chrome plated or anything. Yeah.
So you haven't really done anything marvellous to the actual engine itself, then? It's just a basic standard engine?
No, it's a stock 1600 engine, yeah.
Okay. And obviously, why did you decide the XR2i of all the other Fords you could have chosen?
It's, I think it's really a very understated car. It tends to have got an impression of being a hairdresser's car for some reason. But it's, I don't know, it's just, I think, just a nice looking car. It's one that Ford actually managed to get right, and it was all... everything's there. You got the power, you got a good start with the body kit, the wheels, etc. And I love it to death, mate.
Well, this is another Sierra XR 4x4 and the proud owner here, John Brooks. Well, John, why did you choose the XR 4x4?
Well, I've had a few other XRs as well. I've still got an XR2 and an XR3, and I always wanted a 4x4. My wife at first says, no, too big, but then when she saw them, she liked it. And it's just got so much go in it. It just pulls lovely, and then you gave it accelerates, and it's just nice.
So obviously, it's a standard car. It's a very good buy, isn't it?
It is. It's a very good buy.
Because obviously on the market, we've done quite a bit to the wheels and tyres on this, which I think improved the handling as well. Do you notice the difference when you took the old tyres off and put these new ones on?
Yes, there's a lot of difference. It grips much better now.
And what else have you done to the engine bay? Because you've also got some pretty special K&N filters there, which certainly aren't standard. Does that actually do much to improve the performance of it or not?
Yes, it's made quite a bit of difference. I put them on first, and it's got a stainless exhaust throughout, and it's been shipped as well, and it's put it up to 170 brake horsepower now.
Well, here's yet another XR3i, and this is the proud ownership of Matt Fife. Well, Matt, why did you actually choose the XR3i amongst all the other Ford vehicles you could have gone for?
Wow, I've had an XR2 before, and as we got a little baby on the way, we decided to get a bigger Escort, bigger car. Being an XR lover, I always decided to get an XR3i.
Okay, and obviously you've had this one for quite some time now. Have you had any problems with it at all?
I've had a few problems with the engine management system, but a friend of mine's got a computer that you can plug into it, and it's been sorted out now, so otherwise it's been alright.
Well, I must admit, it's a very clean car, and underneath it looks like you spend a lot of time polishing it.
Most certainly.
So what's it like on a day like today when it's actually threatening rain? Do you sort of try and get umbrellas all over it?
Absolute murder coming here this morning. We spent all weekend doing it, and you've got to start again when you get here in the morning, so murder doing it.
Well, the XR Owners Club is just one of many hundreds of clubs in the UK that cover ownership of various vehicles of classic and pre-classic ages. And if you're looking at buying a specific vehicle, obviously it's a good idea to join the clubs, because not only do you get a mountain of advice for free, you also get lots of help off other enthusiasts, and also probably get not free insurance, but certainly good rates on cheap insurance, which has been negotiated by the owners' clubs. So certainly from a saving money point of view, and also from getting advice and getting help, it's certainly a very good way of getting good care and attention for your loved classic car.
Well, it certainly looked like a grim day. It takes real passion, doesn't it, to get those cars to the pristine condition they're in. Well, after the break, Will Hoy takes us for a spin in something really special. Now, it's not every day you get to drive a 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO and then in the same day an F355. However, not everybody is Will Hoy.
F is for fast, E is for exciting and exotic, R is for red, and R again is for racing. You getting it yet? A is for amazing, aerodynamics, and acceleration. And R again is for Rosso. And then finally I is for Italian. If you haven't got it yet, you're definitely a sad case. I'm here today at Gawsworth Hall to peruse two wonderful Ferraris. Just look and listen to these. The 1962 250 GTO and the F355. Are they cars that live up to the legend? So guys, thanks very much for bringing these two wonderful cars along today. David, this is the Ferrari 355, commonly acknowledged to be one of the best Ferraris that's been built for some time. Is that justified?
I think so, yes. It's a lot better than its predecessor, and it marks a return to the values that we were used to in Ferraris days gone by. It's using the 5-valve cylinder heads that they used in Formula 1 until the middle of last season, and we've also got 6 gears to make the best use of the power.
So, really, there's only one thing for it. You better give me the keys and let me have a go.
Enjoy yourself.
Thanks very much. I've always wanted a set of Ferrari keys. The 355 may not be the classic that the GTO is, with its tremendous racing pedigree. The one thing that really tells you that it's a Ferrari is the engine behind me, the 3.5-litre V8, pushing out some 390 horsepower. It doesn't really have any vices, particularly mid-corner, which a lot of cars in its class seem to suffer with 1 or 2 problems. But if there's one thing I don't like, though, it's the interior finish. Whilst the leather's quite nice, I hate the colour. But like all Ferraris, you really have to rev it. You really have to use it on the open road. It's not a shopping car, that's for sure. So Stephen, with cars like this, why on earth do you want to own a Ferrari built in 1962?
Simply this. It's the finest old 1962 12-cylinder motor car that's ever been made by Ferrari. It won more races than anything you can imagine, and really the whole heritage of Ferraris come from the 250 GT, and this is a 250 GTO. The engine is unbreakable at 8,000 revs per minute.
I think we better look at this engine.
It's a 300 horsepower V12 dry sumped engine. The centre of gravity is below the height of your knees, which gives it its exceptional stability. I must say that every time I get in the car, it makes me feel 30 years younger.
Well, I fancy trying a bit of that myself, so we better have a little drive. The first thing that strikes you about this car is its complete lack of creature comforts, but that's not surprising considering the car is as old as it is, built in the 1960s. But having said that, it's got all that wonderful feel that a race-bred car, road car, should have. You feel every bump in the road. The one problem really is the question of conversation. You can't have a lot of it in this car, because as you can hear, it really is quite noisy. But there's one phrase to sum it all up, is bella macchina. A beautiful, beautiful car. It took all my skill as a smooth-talking racing driver to persuade these guys to let me take their cars off the road and onto the racetrack, where hopefully there are no milk floats. As on the road, you really have to work this engine hard, but round here it's a real joy as you never get below that dreaded 4,000 revs. On the track, its age begins to slip away, so you can try to use the car to its proper limit, although you'll never reach the top speed of 170 miles an hour on a circuit like this. But who cares? This is absolutely brilliant. This is one of only 32 cars ever built. In its heyday in the 60s, this car was a Cobra and an E-Type eater, and it had some great battles. In fact, it ended its career rather ingloriously when it was taken out by a milk float between stages on the Tour de France in 1964. This car is an absolute masterpiece. It's a work of art. It was built by Scaglietti, who must have been a pupil of somebody like Michelangelo. Just look at that bonnet as it falls away from you, and you can see those wonderful bulges, hiding, of course, the pièce de résistance, the V12 engine. And it just shows the racing pedigree of this car, which is now some 32 years old. If you can stand the high-pitched scream, it will actually rev to 8,500 revs, and a V12, even of this vintage, sounds absolutely wonderful. It's exactly as a race car should be. So much for the GTO. Let's take a time warp and see what Ferrari have pulled out of the hat for 1995. This car is really beginning to show its racing pedigree. It's an excellent chassis. One penalty of the traditional Ferrari gearbox is that it can be a little bit slow, and at times you can miss shift, so you have to take great care. In fact, the 0 to 60 time of 4.7 seconds is fairly impressive, and the top speed of 183 miles an hour is something we certainly won't reach today at Alton Park. There's just one question you would probably like to ask, is how much these cars are worth. The 355 is worth about £84,000, but the GTO, this car, is worth something in the order of a cool 10 billion lira. That's £4 million to you. I mean, it is a classic after all, like an old master painting, for example. But unlike a painting, you can actually drive this car and enjoy it. But the trouble is, there might be a milk float round the corner.
Will Hoy driving the cars that most people, including me, can only dream about. It's time now to take a trip with John Wright. This week, he's looking at essential tools.
Welcome once again to Inside Motors. Every once in a while you get a superb assignment, and today I've just got the one. As a professional mechanic, I really enjoy hand tools. It's how I earn my living. It's how I do the job. Now today we've come down to Sykes Pickervant in Lytham St Anne's, and we're going to talk tools. I've got with me Martin O'Day from Sykes Pick, who's going to talk tools. Thank you very much for coming along and talking to us. Now, what we want to look at is basic toolkits for the home mechanic.
Yeah.
What sort of things would you recommend?
Well, certainly I think every mechanic will need at some point a spanner and a spanner set. Now, the most popular type of spanner set tends to be the combination spanner set. And we have here quite a nice little range of AF spanner sets, and obviously we do metric sizes as well. Now, this particular range starts at 3/8 and goes up to 11/16, which tends to be the more popular AF sizes. In metric, the similar sort of set would be a 10mm maybe to 19mm set. Combination tends to be more popular than the open-ended and ring key set. Don't know why, it just seems to be whether it's a fashion thing, but ring keys and open-ended seem to be a bit old hat nowadays. And the style of the spanner has changed over the years, from the old rigid bed spanner type thing to a more modern chrome, shiny mirror finish.
I must admit, it is absolutely superb. The finish on it is great. The handle is brilliant.
Yeah.
And just from working with these tools, we find that you use that end the most.
Yes.
And then that end just for holding things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously from a safety point of view, if you've got a nut or a bolt that's particularly tight, the more surface area that you've actually got round the nut or the bolt, the better you are, and the less likely you are for it to slip off and take your skin off your knuckles.
Yeah. Just for the people at home, I'd love to say this: you've only got one pair of hands. Always buy quality tools, and if they start wearing, bin them, and I'm afraid you're going to have to buy another one. But it keeps these chaps in business. Right, from the spanners,
sockets.
We've got some sockets in front of us here. Can you explain a little bit about them?
Sockets tend to come mainly in what they call bi-hex sockets, which are 12-sided sockets. Now, we do a small range of these. We do them quarter, 3/8 drive and 1/2-inch drive. These are the quarter drive one, which are particularly useful for radio fitments, or if you're just fitting body trims and things. We haven't got a great deal of room, but you need a fair bit of access. So quarter drive for your small usage, and that's quite a nice little range there. You've got from 4 to 13mm in standard, and also 4 to 13 in double depth sockets, which are particularly useful if you've got a nut that's at the end of a large stud.
Again, they're very, very useful if you've got something like an Astra or something with a bolt-on distributor cap.
Yeah.
They're superb for getting those little fiddly bits off.
Under a lot of engines nowadays, there isn't a great deal of room, and under a lot of dashes and vehicles, you haven't got a particularly great vast amounts of room. So quarter drive tends to be a very popular set. It's certainly quite a good quarter drive set, and it's a very good place to start, because once you've got quarter drive, you can then build up the next level up from quarter drive, depending on obviously how big and how tight the bolts are, is your 3/8 drive. I just have an example of a 3/8 drive socketry range here. Now, this is a a bit of a novel ratchet. Again, where access is awkward and you haven't got a great deal of space, this tends to be a standard ratchet shape and size, whereas this just gives you a little bit of flexibility where you just can't quite get at an awkward nut, bolt, or whatever it might be you're trying to undo. The sockets are slightly different as well. The 3/8 drive sockets are what we call surface drive. As you can see, these have 12-sided on them, and these are 6-sided surface drive. The idea of these sockets are that they actually grip the flats of the nuts and bolts. All the power that you exert are actually on the flats of the nuts and bolts, not on the corners. Because what can happen is, obviously, if it's a bit of a dodgy nut or bolt, somebody's had a go at it and tried to fit the wrong spanner or a wrong socket on it, you put one of these on, it will still undo it.
And the number of times I've done that, I mean, everybody must have got a nut that just won't move because it's been sheared and flatted and rounded. Oh, it's horrible.
No, exactly. And these, again, you have AF and metric. This particular set, again, is an AF set. But again, metric tends to be the more popular. Metric 3/8 drive from 10 to 19 mil, what we call standard or double deep, are the ones that tend to be the more popular range.
Now, for people who watch the show on quite a regular basis, they'll know that we're actually virtually standard on 3/8 drive now. And one of the lovely design features I like about this range is, believe it or not, that bit there.
That wouldn't be for oily fingers and things.
That would be for oily fingers. When you've cracked the nut, you can grip that and just turn it off or turn it on. That is a superb design feature. I don't know who thought of that, but he wants a medal.
What we tried to come up with this particular range of screwdrivers is actually something a little bit different to the norm. Most screwdrivers, and every man and his dog do screwdrivers, all look the same. So what we try to come up with this is slightly different design, something that the mechanic would feel comfortable with and obviously use and hopefully buy more and more of them. What we came up with is, if you have a look at the front profile of the screwdriver, it looks pretty much like any other screwdriver would do. So you turn it to the side and where you get a slightly fatter profile. Now the idea of this is it's designed to fit your hand. Most screwdrivers are designed probably not to fit your hand, whereas this one actually does. Now the purpose of this is it actually gives you much more power at the end of the screwdriver blade, which is obviously where you need it. Another essential part of the kit is probably a set of pliers. Now, any good tool kit wouldn't be complete without the old trusty plier set. Now, various types, again, various manufacturers, various shapes, sizes and forms. I think the important thing with any hand tool is if it feels comfortable. If it doesn't feel comfortable, then obviously don't buy it.
John will be back next week for more Inside Motors. Also next week on 4 Wheels Good, we'll be taking another look at BMW's Z3 and finding out how you can be conned by car dealers. See you then.